Welcome to the Olympus RPG channel. I'm Gigermann. In this video, we'll look at the 2009 movie Sherlock Holmes starring Robert Downey Jr., and I'll break down the punch bowl pit fight scene in Act 1 between Sherlock Holmes and McMurdo. This is GURPS Does Sherlock Holmes. Let's review the clip.
First, distract target. Then block his blind jab. Counter with cross to left cheek. Discombobulate. Dazed, he'll attempt wild haymaker. Employ elbow block. And body shot. Block ferrule left. Weaken right jaw. Now fracture. Break cracked ribs. Traumatize solar plexus. Dislocate jaw entirely. Heel kick to diaphragm. In summary, ears ringing, jaw fractured, 3 ribs cracked, 4 broken, diaphragm hemorrhaging. Physical recovery 6 weeks. Full psychological recovery 6 months. Capacity to spit it back of head neutralized.
Now let's consider the combatants. McMurdo is played by David Garrett, 6'2" and a healthy 225 pounds. Strength well above average, dexterity and IQ average, health a little above average, maybe with some extra hit points. He's an experienced bare-knuckle boxer, probably with points spent to improve targeted attack, boxing punch to the face at least. Holmes is played by Robert Downey Jr., 5'8" a bit, and a lean 175 pounds. Strength average, dexterity probably above average, very high IQ, above average health, I guess. In the stories, Holmes is described as an expert in Barutsu. In the film, however, he uses Wing Chun, as Downey is himself a practitioner. He's likely a 300 to 500 point character, and I would expect him to have maxed out most of his most often used techniques and combinations, including some cinematic ones. A few points of interest before I break down the fight. If you pay close attention, you may notice the full-speed fight differs slightly from Holmes' pre-visualization. This is either a matter of editing or a very clever intentional detail. That said, I will be focusing on the full-speed version. Holmes uses the term block a few times in his walkthrough. This is a common martial arts term, but in GURPS mechanics this is definitely a parry. Our group often uses a margin-based alternative to the normally binary knockdown rule. I will assume its use here as it makes more sense of what happens. We'll put a link in the description. Finally, the handkerchief distraction was a tough call. His intention doesn't appear to be blinding the opponent per se, but concealment or confusion. The listed effects on existing dirty tricks rules don't quite fit the on-screen results, though liquids in the face comes pretty close, if not for the timing of the penalties. In the end, rather than bend existing rules, I decided the ruse variation on the fate maneuver fits the best, although one could make a strong case for a dex-based roll here instead. Now, on to the fight. Round 1. Holmes initiates by throwing the handkerchief. I decided this was a ruse-type feint maneuver. There's a quick contest of Holmes' IQ versus McMurdo's perception-based combat skill, boxing in this case. McMurdo loses. On his turn, McMurdo responds with a jab, a defensive attack, targeting the face, normally -5 less his targeted attack. The attack roll succeeds, but Holmes parries with both hands, dragging McMurdo's guard down for a follow-up, a typical Wing Chun technique. Round 2. On his turn, Holmes makes an attack, a punch to the face using counterattack. The normal -10 for location and counterattack combined is reduced by the associated techniques to a more manageable -3. His roll succeeds. McMurdo's defensive attacks gives him +1, but feint and counterattack penalties combine to give him a near-zero chance to parry, and he fails. The injury to the head triggers a knockdown check. An unlucky narrow failure in this case. He's stunned, but remains standing, per the house rule. On his turn, McMurdo does nothing, and succeeds on his health check to recover from stun. He doesn't really respond at all during this round. Round 3. On his turn, Holmes attacks again, a double ear-clap, dual-weapon attack, succeeding with both throws. McMurdo defends at -1 for the dual-weapon attack, and appears to have failed rather badly, as he barely even gets his hands up in response. In addition to injury, the attack triggers 2 quick contests of Holmes' ear-clap versus McMurdo's health, to avoid stun and dex penalties. Luckily, McMurdo manages to win both, and he is able to continue to act afterward, though he does suffer dex and IQ penalties for shock. On his turn, McMurdo responds with a committed attack, Determined, a punch to the torso. Modifiers for shock and committed cancel each other, and his roll succeeds. Holmes easily parries the wild haymaker and uses it for another follow-up. Round 4. On his turn, Holmes succeeds in an attack, a counterattack punch to the torso. McMurdo is overextended. His defenses are penalized for counterattack and his committed attack, -5 parry or -4 dodge. He fails, barely able to respond. It's not a major wound, but McMurdo's current total injury should have him below the 1/3 hit point threshold at this point, so he's now at half move and dodge to go with his new shock penalty. On his turn, McMurdo succeeds in an attack, a punch to the torso minus the shock penalty. Again, Holmes easily parries this feral left and counters. Round 5. On his turn, Holmes successfully attacks with a counterattack exotic hand strike, a knife hand, to the jaw, normally at -6. In the walkthrough, this was an elbow strike. McMurdo can't bring his hands up to deflect in time, and his parry attempt at -2 for counterattack fails. Injury to the head again requires a knockdown check at -1. McMurdo fails by 1 and is stunned in place. On his turn, McMurdo does nothing and fails his health roll to recover from stun. He offers no real opposition or defense, just a living Wing Chun dummy after this point. Round 6. This round is difficult to read because the shot angle hides the action, so I'm really just guessing. With McMurdo wavering around the 0 hit points mark, Holmes opens up with a flurry of blows. These are combinations, as GURPS' description of Wing Chun suggests, but he'll use all-out attack here to counteract the associated penalties. So, on his turn, Holmes goes with all-out attack Determined, using a combination consisting of a punch to the torso followed by a punch to the jaw, penalty as before. These appear to be reversed from the walkthrough. McMurdo, stunned, will defend against each at -4, ruining any chance of success. The second shot to the jaw triggers another knockdown roll at -1, though he's already stunned. On his turn, McMurdo fails another health roll to come out of stun and does nothing. He's definitely below 0 hit points now, and fighting to remain conscious. Round 7. This round is also a change-up from the pre-visualization. On his turn, Holmes continues his combo chain with all-out attack Determined, a different combination consisting of a punch to the face followed by a punch to the jaw. The second doesn't quite fit the GURPS definition of an uppercut, though it does look like one at first glance. McMurdo is still stunned and defends at -4 against both attacks, again barely registering an attempt. Another knockdown check at -1 for the jaw hit, and I guess he's actually failed by enough to be knocked prone this time, though he won't actually hit the ground just yet. On his turn, McMurdo fails again to recover from his stun condition, and is now below 0 hit points. Round 8. Holmes wraps up with a successful all-out strong telegraphic kick to the vitals with a net +1 bonus. McMurdo is basically helpless to defend himself here. The damage plus bonuses may still not be enough for a major wound, given McMurdo's starting hit points, but it will definitely be enough to drop him close to the first death check threshold, if not past it, and he crumples to the ground. Holmes suggested physical recovery 6 weeks. With 14 to 16 hit points, McMurdo would have taken nearly twice that in injury, leaving him just short of critical condition. GURPS basic healing rules give 3 to 4 weeks for that to heal naturally, or half that with physician's care at TL6. That's the basic version. However, the trauma to the jaw and ribs might prompt a GM to ask for a crippling duration health roll, as for a limb or extremity, with failure indicating a break that could take months to heal, but that'd be a house rule. A truly brutal GM might have McMurdo roll against the vital wounds table in martial arts for a more permanent consequence if that final heel kick did turn out to be a major wound. But otherwise, he'll live. Holmes, on the other hand, wasn't even touched. Holmes' slow-motion walkthrough might suggest the use of visualization, but the description of that advantage disallows combat use. However, for a cinematic character specifically built around that sort of ability, a GM might consider bending that rule a bit. In that case, first, I might allow haste modifiers to be applied to the activation IQ roll, though a maximum reduction of 50% only lowers time to 30 seconds. Holmes spends around 15 seconds between the spit and the start of the fight. There is some precedent for a -10 for cinematic instantaneous use in some situations, but even at Holmes' IQ, he wouldn't succeed often. Otherwise, it's probably easier just to apply a reduced time enhancement to lower it directly. Secondly, I might allow combat use so long as the exchange progresses in a manner consistent enough with how the player described it beforehand, like the walkthrough. In this example, if McMurdo were to draw a knife, or another fighter joined in, the bonus would be nullified. Such an ability, at Holmes' IQ, can make him nigh unbeatable with enough preparation time. And that's my take. If you agree or disagree, leave a comment here or find us on Discord. Like and subscribe if you want to see more of this sort of content. Thanks for watching. Olympus out.